We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph in Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 55a. On the previous Talmud, an individual came before Rabbi Avo and said that I sold a Sefer Torah to somebody, and that Sefer Torah, the parchment was made not lishma. The Sefer Torah is not kosher. And Rabbi Avo said, since you believe to lose out on your wages for that Sefer Torah, you also believe that the Sefer Torah is puzzle, that the Sefer Torah is disqualified. And the Gemara now asks, Rabbi Ami. Now, what's the difference between this case and the ruling of Rabbi Ami, which was the exact opposite? That was talking about somebody who sold the Sefer Torah to somebody else, and he said the Sefer Torah, all the names of Hashem are not lishma. And Rabbi Ami said that the person is not believed to disqualify the Sefer Torah. Even though he's believed to lose his wages, he's not believed on the disqualification of the Sefer Torah. Rashi says, Rabbi Ami ruled that you're not believed to say that the Sefer Torah is disqualified. And the Gemara answers Hassam over there by Rabbi Ami's case, you could say that the person making this claim made a mistake in terms of what Rabbi Yirmiyah thought on the previous Amud. Hassam maybe he's really lying. That he's just trying to make trouble. He thinks he's only going to lose out on the wages of the names of Hashem, like Rabbi Yirmiyah suggested. But here, when he knows he's going to lose his entire wages, and he comes and he says it's not a good Sefer Torah, so then already we have reason to believe that he's telling the truth. Over here, since he's going to lose all of his wages, and yet he's coming and saying that the Sefer Torah is no good, we have reason to say that he's telling us the truth. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hayid Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgedo al hacharesha sheisi avia sheyotze beget. Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgedo testified about a chareshes, about a woman who's a deaf mute, that her father married her off, that she can be divorced with a get. V'al ketana bas Yisrael shenisas l'kohen, and let's say you have a Jewish minor who's married to a kohen, shochelas b'truma, she's allowed to eat truma. V'yamesin, if she dies, ba'ala yarsha, her husband inherits her. V'al amarish hagazlan, and if you have a beam that's stolen, shebano bebira, and they built it into a building, sheyitol as damav, so then you don't have to give back the beam. He can give back a compensation as money. That is a takana that was instituted on behalf of those who are returning these objects. They don't have to knock down the whole structure. And also regarding a carbon chatas that's stolen, the public's not aware that it was stolen. She mechaperes, it's still going to atone. That's an institution for the mizbeach. And Rashi says, Sheisiya avia ribusa nakat. This is a chiddush. Tiafagav the kabel avia kiddushin didakashi ketana. That even though her father accepted her kiddushin while she was a minor of havala eshes ish gemura, and that's a doraisa marriage, afilu achi, nevertheless yotza beget, she can still receive a get on her own. Umekabelas askita, even though she's a chareshes, even though she's a deaf mute, she can receive her own get. Viafagav the lesba daita the isha kinafka bal karcha nafka. Even though she doesn't have das, a chareshes is considered an individual without das. Nevertheless, a woman can be divorced against her will. Vein misratza begerishin. She doesn't have to have ratzon. She doesn't have to be divorced willingly. Again, in general, you can divorce her against her will, and it still works. And so, therefore, over here as well, she doesn't have das. It is still going to be effective. If you have a girl who's a Jewish minor that's married to a Kohen, we're talking about an orphan over here, meaning her marriage is only midrabanan. She's not being married off by her father. The point over here is she can eat truma, meaning truma midrabanan, through this marriage. Velo gazrin and midi. We don't make any gezeira and say, well, she can't have truma doraisa, therefore she can't have truma derabanan. We don't say that. Marish again is a korah, that's a beam, and bira is a bayis gadol. Bira means a large house. We let him return money. We don't make him return the actual beam. If you made the person knock down the whole house to return the beam, the person's not going to do teshuva. Finally, they don't realize that this carbon chatas is stolen. The public's not aware of it. It's still going to atone. You don't need to bring another one. Because of the takana on behalf of the mizbeach, begemara mefarish. The Gemara is going to explain that. Again, these are all cases the Mishnayos and this parak deal with situations of things that are tikkun olam or because of takana. That's why we bring this down over here. And the Gemara says, Amar Rava says, Meidusa shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgedo, Amar la'edim ru'u get zeh shani nosein la. We can learn from the testimony of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgedo. If somebody says to witnesses, look, I'm about to give my wife a get. V'chazor v'yamar la kinsi shtar chov zeh. But then when he actually gives her the document, he says, take this shtar chov. Take this document. It's a document that has a debt recorded in it. So harezu megureshes. She's still going to be divorced, even though when she's receiving the document, she doesn't even realize it's a get. It is still a divorce. Milo Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben good Gedol lo ba'ina daita din. Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgud to say that we don't require her knowledge, we don't require her to be divorced willingly. Hachanami lo ba'ina daita. So too over here, we don't require her knowledge. The fact that she's not aware that it's a get does not make a difference. The Gemara says pshita, but isn't that obvious? The Gemara says, no, it's not obvious. What might you have said? Kevan damar kinsi shtarchov zeh bitule batli. Maybe since he said kinsi shtarchov zeh, that's like a nullification of the get. Kamash malon. So that's what we're learning over here. Im isa de batli, because if he really wanted to nullify it, la'edim have amarlu, he would have told the witnesses that he's nullifying it. V'hayid dekamar hachim mishum kisufa. The real reason over here that he's saying that it's a shtarchov has nothing to do with nullification. The real reason is because he's embarrassed to say that he's giving her a get. So instead he says it's a shtarchov. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, V'al Katana Bas Yisrael, the Mishnah said that a Jewish minor is allowed to eat truma when she's married. And the Gemara says, V'ilu Chareshes lo achla. Now it seems like from the Mishnah, Chareshes, it doesn't say anything about truma. It sounds like she's not allowed to eat truma. My time, what's the reason? They're both situations that are essentially identical situations. They're Derabanan Kiddushins. Why are we making a distinction between Katana and Chareshes? Rashi says, V'ilu Chareshes lo isiya avia. Again, we're talking about a Chareshes that her father did not marry her off. V'hi nisus she just married on her own. It's derabanan. Lo achla b'truma. She doesn't eat truma. Midashani tana b'milse dairi b'chareshes v'shavka v'nakad katana. Because the Tana first deals with chareshes, then it leaves aside chareshes and talks about katana. Shvamina chareshes gedola denisua derabanan dechivvasaninu. That would sound like it's saying that if you had an adult chareshes where it's also derabanan kiddushin, lo achla, she doesn't eat truma al yedei kiddushin dida, through her kiddushin. Because why would we leave aside the case of chareshes and talk about truma only by a katana? It sounds like it's only true by a katana, and that's why the Gemara asked, "My time, hanisui cheresh v'chereshes nami rabbanan takinu b'yavamas b'cheresh anasa." The marriage of a cheresh and a chereshes is the rabbanan. That should be identical to the marriage of a katana. So why is it that they are treated differently? And the Gemara answers, Gezerah shamiyachel cheresh b'chareshes. The Gezerah is, we're afraid that maybe a cheresh will marry a chareshes, and then he'll also, in that situation, she's going to eat truma, and that's going to be a problem. But the Gemara says, V'lechel, but what's the issue? Why not eat truma over there also? Katan ochel nevelosu. This is just a status of a katan. The chareshes has the status of a minor. It's like a minor eating nevelos. It's not really a problem. And the Gemara answers to that, no, but it is another Gezerah. Gezerah shamiyachel cheresh b'pikachas. What we're really concerned is maybe a cheresh will marry pekachas, and that is a woman who does have das. She's not allowed to eat things that are not kosher, and so we're afraid that that in that case also the cheresh is who is a kohen, his marriage will allow. Mistakenly allow the pikachas to eat truma, and that would be a problem. But the Gemara still says v'lechol b'truma d'Rabbanan. But still, why can't she eat truma midrabbanan? It should be the same as we treat a katana. And the Gemara says that's already a gezerah shama'asi la'chule b'truma d'oraisa. It's a gezerah that maybe he's going to give her truma midoraisa. And Rashi says, Shamayachel kohen cheresh bechareshes, isharas la'achel pikeach bechareshes, asi lechule cheresh bechareshes. If you're going to allow it by a pikeach and a chareshes, by a pikeach and a chareshes, a pikeach is somebody who's healthy, then it's going to happen by a cheresh and a chareshes also. Uparch, and then the Gemara asks, V'lechel, what's the big deal? Let him give it to her. Katan ochel nevelasu, ha-chareshes came in the lesson badaita, since the chareshes has no das, hareika katan, she's like a katan. Ha-ochel nevelos, who's eating non-kosher, eating an animal carcass. V'ikol ma'adam Rabbi Yavamas, Bezin Mitzuvah, all of Lafrisha. There's an opinion in Yavamas. Bezin has no instruction to separate a katan from eating the velas. Va'afilu b'truma d'oraisa teichel. She should even be able to eat truma d'oraisa. And the Gemara said to that, Gezerah shem yachel cheresh kohen she'ein kinyan o kinyan. We're afraid maybe he's going to be the husband will be a cheresh, but pikachas, and she'll be a pikachas shemuz eres alo eser, and she is commanded not to have truma hilkach gazer pikach bechareshes misham cheresh bepikachas. Therefore, we make a gezerah by a pikach with a chereshes because of the opposite case, a cheresh with a pikach. Aval gadol bekatana lekal migzar, but by a gadol with a katana, there's no reason to make a gezerah mishum katan begadola, because maybe a katan will marry gadola. You'll say the same thing. We'll have a reverse situation. Because of the reverse situation, we make a gezerah by a katana also. But that's not a problem. The katan less le nisuan afilu midrabanan, because a katan by a male who's a minor, there is no marriage even on a derabanan level. It's not the same as a cheresh where there's a derabanan marriage. Can amr be Yavamas, like it says in Yavamas, shota v'katan shenasu nashim neshosein peturos menachali. Vashoter cut and marry women, that marriage is nothing. They're parted from chalitza and from yibam, and so therefore you have no gezerah by a katana, even though you do have a gezerah by a chareshes. But then the Gemara still asked, "V'leichol cheresh bepikachas betruma derabanan." Let's say a cheresh marries a pikachas, still she could have truma derabanan. The asu nisuin derabanan umahani letruma derabanan, because let the derabanan marriage help for truma derabanan. And again to that, the Gemara said we're afraid that in the end she'll end up eating truma midoraisa. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "V'ala Morish Hagazal Shabano." Again, you had a beam that was stolen and it was built into a large house. Tan Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Gazal Morish Shuvano Bebira. Let's say a person steals a beam and builds it into a large building. Beishamai Yomer Mekakeh Kol Abira Kulu Machzer Morish Lebayla. Beishamai say you have to undo the entire building. You have to take apart the structure and return the original beam to the owner. Beis Hillel Omer, but Beis Hillel say Ein Lo Ela Demei Morish Bilvad. He only is compensated with the value of the beam. He pays back money. Mishum Takonas Hashavim. That is a takana that is instituted on behalf of those who are returning these stolen objects, as we explained. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, V'al chatas hagzula v'chulu. Again, the end of the Mishnah was talking about a chatas that was stolen, that people were not aware that it was stolen, and the Mishnah said that it's still going to atone. Amar Ula says, Dvar Torah bein nodu vein lo noda ina mechaperes. On a doraisa level, whether people are aware that it was stolen, if they're not aware that it was stolen, it really does not, on a doraisa level, it does not atone. My time, what's the reason yish kadi lo kani? Because yish alone doesn't create a kinyan. Just because the original owner gave up after it was stolen, that doesn't create a real kinyan, and therefore you don't really have an ownership of this animal as the carbon. It's not going to atone. Now, why do they say that if the person wasn't aware that we still say it's considered an atonement? In this way, the Kohanim will not be sad. So the Rabbanan said to Ula, but we learned in our Mishnah that the reason has nothing to do with sad Kohanim, it's Tikun HaMizbeach. That seems to be a different reason. Amar Lahem, so he said to them, Kaven to Kohanim Atzavim, if the Kohanim are upset, Nimtza Mizbeach Batal, it's going to come out that the Mizbeach is going to be Batal. Karbonis, you're not going to have Karbonis on the Mizbeach. That's what it means, Tikun HaMizbeach. For Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda says, Dvar Torah bein lo noda mechaperes, the exact opposite. On a doraisa level, whether people are aware it's stolen or not, it is mechaper. It is going to create an atonement. My time, what's the reason? Yish kadikani, because Yish alone does create a kinyan, and therefore, again, on a doraisa level, it is going to be a kapara. And Rashi says, Yish kadi yish levado below shinoi rishus achar yish. What that means is, you have an item that's stolen, and all you have there is that the original owner gave up hope yish, but there's no shinoi rishus after the yish. In other words, it doesn't then transfer to another rishus after that. You only have yish lo kani, that's not considered a kinyan, le'inyan hakrava, meaning in terms of hakrava, in terms of bringing it on the mizbeach, va'afilu shaminan, shenesiyayishu habaylam, even if we heard that the original owner gave up, lo karinan be karbana, we don't call it his carbon. It's not going to be a kinyan, it's not his carbon on a doraisa level. We don't want the Kohanim to be upset that they ate chulin that was shechted in the azar, which is asur. In other words, we don't want them to be upset that they ended up eating something that was shechted in the Beis HaMikdash and in the azar, and it wasn't really a carbon, it was actually chulin. That would be a problem, and so therefore we say that it is an atonement. Nimtzah mizbeach batal, and the idea is if they are upset, the mizbeach is batal. Shenim noin milavod avoda. Now they're going to refrain from performing the avod in the Beis HaMikdash. And Rashi says, "V'ikasha." Now, if you're going to ask as follows, "Heich hisnu bezdin lakor davar min haTorah v'liftor azem mechatos." How can Bezdin come along and say, meaning the Rabbanan? How can the Rabbanan come along and say, on a doraisa level, this person still needs to bring another carbon chatos? But the Bezdin is saying he doesn't need to bring it. How's that possible? Shu chayiv, isn't he chayiv to bring on a doraisa level? Ha'amrina b'yavamas shevi al tasa shani delav miyakaru. We say in Yavamas, this is shevi al tasa. Bezdin is allowed to say you don't need to do something. In this case, you don't need to bring an additional carbon. That's actually something that is within the scope of Bezdin. And then we had the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, bein noda, bein lo noda mechaperes, that it doesn't matter whether people are aware or not, it is considered a kapara, if the original owners give up hope. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis.